jungle.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Ndalama Band's podcast number 3, I think. And today we're at the Echoes of Resilience Festival, which was put together by our band after we won a really great grant from Inter Foundation, Music in Africa, and Sound Connects Fund. So the festival is pretty much about celebrating resilience, and it's the resilience of Malawian culture, Malawian art, and Malawi's youth. So we've got a few guests, Akari, Linda, Kim of Diamonds, and Q Malawesi, to help us talk about a few of these things, arts, culture, and resilience. So I guess we'll start off with the easy questions. Where did you guys see Malawi's scene, the industry, the arts and culture industry?
Okay. I mean, currently the arts industry in Malawi is pretty diverse. So if I was to speak on it, I wouldn't really give you something that's very informed. But what I can speak on is the fashion industry, which is part of the arts. So right now, the fashion industry in Malawi is really booming, especially post-COVID. We've really done a lot from the time where a designer would just take fabric and make a two-strap dress. We're interacting with fabrics differently. We no longer want our things to look like that of the West. We're trying more to embrace ourselves. So right now, I think the fashion industry in Malawi is doing really well. And I'd love to see where it's going to be in 2 to 3 years, because I think it's a platform that can really propel individuals to be really further than where we are right now.
I guess I'll speak from the perspective of music for Malawi. I think there is progress that is being done. The conversations we're having right now, we're having today, just shows that there is progress being made. I think there's definitely room for more work to be done, but I believe we're on the right track. I think experiences like what we're doing today just shows people how you can progress, how you can market your art, what avenues you should take. I think the conversations that we keep having within this space should continue, but also exploring the opportunities that are there. We had a chat earlier this morning with Hugh at his hub, and we talked about the gaps in the supply chain, something I also talked about with Kim. So if we fill those gaps, we will definitely get where we need to go.
Actually, you blog too, right?
Yes, I do. I do blog. I guess you can say I'm a creative, though I run away from that term. Yeah.
I think I read something of yours about the lion writing its own. So tell me about how writing can help, influence how culture is shared and received.
I think with writing, there is an opportunity to tell stories. I know now the conversation that I keep hearing is about it's visual, but I think writing is very important, and reading as well is very important. Read widely, not just within your culture, but explore other cultures as well. You'll find that a lot of people from a lot of countries, like a lot of cultures are very similar. It's just that as people, because we don't explore, because we don't read, we don't know. So for me personally, I can tell you that writing and reading has really helped me a lot. I think I wouldn't be where I am today if it's not for that. And even my career, I can say that I've been told by people who've interviewed me to say that whenever they hear that I have a blog and that I write, it sort of makes them look at me from a different perspective. So I would definitely say writing has been of great help to me, and I would encourage others to do the same. Yeah.
Let's move to music. Kim, how does music spread Malawian culture? How does your music spread Malawian culture? Do you even think about it when you're making music, or it just happens?
For me, it's not like, oh, I'm going to make music to represent my culture. I'm just expressing myself. And then from there is now where, in my own career, I'm trying to incorporate a lot more cultural references, because I've seen how Afrobeat has put Nigeria on the map, Amapiano has put South Africa on the map. So what can we do as well to put Malawi on the map? That's where we're at. But I love the stage where we're at in terms of music in Malawi, because there's a lot of diversity. The industry in the past 2-3 years, I've seen a lot more people embracing non-conventional Malawian sound, and I get to listen to a lot of unconventional Malawian sounding music, and it is sounding amazing. So what we now need to do to spread the culture and to communicate the different messages and stories that we have is to work together, and like she said, to have more conversations like these, having more platforms and businesses. I'm obsessed with telling people that we can have, you can get inspired to start a music business, and it's very important that all of us see our capacity to start a music business, because that's the way of preserving the culture and carrying it forward, and also supporting the young people, because essentially young people are always the movement of anything. So unless we support the young people in expressing themselves in music by giving them platforms, equipment, collaborations, then we're shooting ourselves in the foot. But if we support them, then we're supporting the culture and allowing it to live and evolve. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
I also believe in the youth, and the young man next to you is a great example of the power we have. I've got a question for you, Q. You mentioned something about a trinity when you were speaking to our cohort, and I thought that was pretty cool because you observed something from Malawian culture. Can you share that?
Thank you. As a Malawian, as an African, one thing I'm very passionate about are our indigenous knowledge systems. And when I look at how information and teaching and learning happens in a traditional context, so to speak, I realize that there's something that we're missing in terms of when we look at what we know as education. So I'll give you an example. For those people who are initiated, Kugure Wankuru, you will find that what young men or boys are taught there sticks in their heads, but then you find that the same young children are struggling in school. So the question is, what teaching methods or what information or transference are they using in that context that is working, that can be adapted in what we know of as kind of formal education. So these are areas I'm very, very interested in. And one of the things I've realized is the use of our own analogies, examples, models as well to teach or to deliver certain communication. So I have been working to adopt that in some of the classes and workshops that I impart to do with creativity. So certain realization in terms of symbolism, for example, which is a global symbolism, which is the number 3, how powerful it is. Everything comes in 3. In Christianity, the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, body, mind, and soul. The elements, sky, water, what's the other one? Fire. Yeah, so Earth. So you find that creation and the mystery of creation and life, a lot of things come in 3. So there is something very powerful and symbolic about the number 3. That is just global. So even in the transfers of information, when I did the workshop, I looked at the aspect of creativity and looked at how people cook using mafua. And the same thing, mafua, there are 3. When there's 2, no one refers to them as mafua. It's just 2 stones. So when you look at God, it's the same thing. That God is, the Godhead, right? Even in African spirituality, that number 3 is also there. So in creativity, I identified those 3, which is the first one, talent, which is God-given, skill, that is learned, and discipline, which is a character that needs to be developed. And when those are positioned rightly, perfectly, just like an equilateral triangle, the fire that burns is what I define as creativity. So in teaching or imparting to other cultural or creative practitioners, these are the models I try to put together, because I can just say, okay, this is the mafua model. Everybody knows what mafua are. And then we do that transference from understanding how mafua work to talent, skill, and discipline, and how we need to invest in each one in your creative life. So these are things that I'm passionate about putting together to help maybe break down what might seem to be these complex concepts, so to speak, because they really aren't, if we go back to the things that we have grown up seeing and observing. So yeah, that's where I was coming from.
I didn't get it totally in the class, so I needed that extra information. But yeah, I'm glad we've spoken about education, music, fashion, and writing. But these, apart from being art forms, they're also industries. So I'd like to talk about like the commercial way we can support Malawian writers, designers, musicians, or educators. I think, Kari, you can take this one. Kim. Money.
Money. Okay, so when it comes to music, I think I've seen a massive change in how we're purchasing more Malawian art over the past 2 to 5 years. 5 years ago, streaming was like, what the hell are you doing on streaming platforms? Now everyone is embracing it. So I think it's about educating each other in the ways that we can compensate creativity, because essentially it's intellectual property. If we can start to have that conversation about what is intellectual property, how does it look like, and why is it important to make sure that, you know, anyone who's creating intellectual property is getting paid properly. Those conversations are very important. And then from there, we need the support of the likes of Airtel Money and TNM Pamba. Now they have to come in and say, how do we help musicians to sell their music in a much more efficient way, rather than send me a screenshot and I'll send you a zip file, I'll send you an email, you know? We have to find a way of making that very seamless. For example, coming to an event like this one, if a musician wants to sell their music, it should be as easy as swiping something, you know, and that going into their Airtel Money. You know, are there things that Airtel and TNM could introduce that can incentivize artists to release music via their platforms, and that way they get a certain percentage? You know, it doesn't have to be free. They can also make a little bit of money, right? So things like that is how I see us monetizing music, especially. And also just attending each other's shows and making sure that we're buying merchandise, we're buying anything that anyone is selling that's good quality. We gotta buy it. And I know Q said it's not about quality, but I'd really love for us as well to use that as an inspiration to work our quality to the point where people are buying our stuff not out of pity or just to say, oh, you know, you're trying, here's my money. It should be like, wow, this is so good, can I have 10 of these? And then those people calling their friends and saying, there's this going on. Because the more high quality something is, the more likely people are going to talk about it to their fans and friends and family. And then that's how we can build more momentum. Yeah.
I feel like you can defend yourself later.
You don't have a lot of people going there, especially the youth. You have the elder folks coming to watch fashion shows. To top that off, it's also buying Malawian fashion designers. We don't really have people standing up and saying, oh, I'm wearing House of Daniela, I'm wearing Lily Alfonso. You have Antwagunja saying that, right? Whereas we have like this South African brand, Makosa, they're opening a shop in New York just next week. What do we have to do in order for a Malawian to get to that point? We're meant to stand on these brands, wear the Malawian fashion brands to the point where we're pushing them out there. And it's not something strange when you hear someone in New York saying, oh, I'm wearing House of Daniela. So it's about buying and supporting, because like I said, the quality right now is, it's happening, it's popping. It's not the same as it was 2 years ago, you know? Yeah.
To add on to that, I'll talk about the writing from the writing perspective, and it's the same thing. Read Malawian writers, buy their work, promote their work. I'll give an example of where in September I had the opportunity to go to Ghana, and I went to the Library of Africa and the African diaspora. They only had 2 Malawian books, like Malawian authors. They had Jack Mapanje and I can't remember the other one. And he was like, the curator there said, oh, I think you're the first Malawian to come here. And I said, okay, that brings a whole perspective to the conversation. But they had so much Nigerian literature, they had so much South African literature, and they were like, oh, the usual visitors we get, guess where they're from? Nigeria, South Africa. So we don't promote our own, and we really need to promote our own. And it echoes the same thing that everybody's saying here. Buy, promote, whatever you need to do, push the brand, push the Malawian brand to the world?
Yeah, it's actually not even taking anything away from what she said. We've had this discussion. Everything at the beginning becomes a little bit tricky in terms of quality. So when I say that buy Malawian as a matter of principle, we have to do that because that is the only way that we are going to improve our quality, right? Even some of the fashion brands that you've mentioned, they are not doing what they were doing 5-6 years ago. They started off, it was like, yeah, it's good. We kept on supporting, and now, we support things improve. But I think it has to be a matter of principle. I think one thing that we do, we question each other. Ngaduguti, someone always has to prove their value for us to attend their show, to buy their product, because we're going to that. Amaimba nyimbo zanje, before you go. Why can't you just be curious enough to say, I'm going to buy a ticket and go because they are a Malawian artist? You don't have to hear, and we don't do that with artists that come to perform here, right? We don't ask, Amaimba nyimbo zanje. No, we just go and pay them a lot of money.
I think that's a perfect segue to my next question, which was about how do you build community and also mental health, because I feel like mental health isn't an individual thing. It sort of takes a village for everyone to be healthy. So how do you go about convincing people to come to the show, just show up out of curiosity? Like, it kind of sounds like a job.
Yeah, it is, right? I think like when it comes to building community, it's always the job that's hardest in the beginning, and then it gets easier with time. So the most important thing, for example, is the fact that we're here today. If we are able to be, I don't know how many people are here right now, but the consistency of being able to do this again next time and again and again until people get the message, because community comes from 2 or 3 people actually being together and focusing on a certain vision or a goal. And the more clearer you are and passionate about it you are, other people feel more inclined to come and join you. So how do we build community? By doing more things like this frequently, by also supporting each other through actions, because sometimes we build community and then we don't support the members in the community through either empowering them through skills or giving them equipment that can help them grow their skill sets even more. So I look at building community as something that takes time and something where it needs to be real in terms of really support people. Don't just build community to go and tell people I have access to 1,000 people, and if you want to access them, you pay me this amount of money, because that's what people do, right? Yeah, but imagine building it genuinely. So yeah, I think I can leave it there.
I think sometimes we overthink things when it comes to building anything. Start where you are with what you have. That's always, you cannot start where you are not. It sounds, yeah, but you find a lot of people try to start something where they're not. Wherever you are, start where you are. Look around. What do you have? You individually, what do you have? Who do you know? Start there, and it will grow. Some years ago, when we talk about, say, poetry in Malawi, in Lilongwe, we started with the Living Room Poetry Club at what now is Cafe 92. It just took 6 of us saying, you know what, let's just be meeting on a Wednesday at 6 p.m. every Wednesday. And we just started like that. We did not, I don't know if it was social media. Yeah, there was social media. But we just started doing that. And then people started, coming through. And it became an actual thing. Wednesdays, people will come to the living room to listen to poetry. It was just a commitment of 6 people starting and say, we're going to be meeting every Wednesday. All we needed was a PA system and a microphone. That was about it. And I actually don't know what poetry in Lilongwe or Malawi would be like without the Living Room Poetry Club when it comes to spoken word poetry, because that also inspired what was Mibawa poetry, which is now Vidipanganga poetry movement. And it all started with what we were doing in Lilongwe. And in Blantyre, they meet on a Wednesday. So they looked at what we were doing, and they got inspired and started doing it themselves. And I think also another thing is we're always looking to someone else to do something for us. when we have the knowledge, the capabilities, but all we need is just, that confidence to say, you can do it. You can set up your own platforms. You can set up your own enterprises. You don't need someone to come and do something for you, because as long as you're letting that happen, that person will have a certain power over you, over your brand, over your dealings, etc., etc. If you do it by yourself, you will develop it in a way that is very unique to you with what you have, and you will understand the value that you've put in. So if anyone comes in, you're going to have that discussion at a point of value, right? And no one else is going to come, and you actually have the power to say no, maybe to other opportunities that are not for you. Because in this space, especially when you have the numbers, there's different opportunities that come, and some might be for you, some might not be for you. But when you have that power to say no, it puts you in a better position for other bigger opportunities. Because those same people are going to come back and say, okay, we had to rethink about this. How about this? So I think recognizing your own value, the power that you have, just by being who you are and starting where you are. Thank you.
My case to Ndalama Fund, I want you guys to do this again next year. That's my quest to you, because you've started, you've seen, you know now what it takes, you want to build a community. You have between now and next December. So I'm expecting something by next December. Another festival, Echoes of Resilience Part 2. Because then you have between now and next year to build a community. All the things we're talking about now, put them into practice. Challenge yourselves. How best can we do this again? What do we need to invest in? So that you look back and you say, okay, we've moved. We know we've made progress. So to the members that are here today, Mr. MK and friends, next year, I'm expecting something. Thank you.
To add on, just on the mental health side, I think as Malawians, what is really difficult when it comes to starting is being afraid. We're always afraid of anenajani, especially with Malawi being so small. Everybody knows everybody. So it's like, okay, who am I to start it? But at the end of the day, we all need to look at it at if I don't start it, who's going to start it? Because my idea is not going to be the same as yours or as yours. So if I feel that I actually have something to bring to the table, then let me go ahead and do that. I'll start with what I have. I don't have to have a lot, but with what I have, I'll build up to that, and I'll build up to something else. So we always hold ourselves back simply because we're afraid of what people are going to say. But sometimes you just have to turn aside from that. Yeah.
I just wanted to add a bit on the mental health thing as well. To say, I think the mental health conversation in an African or Malawian setting is interesting because sometimes it feels like we also have mental health issues because of like the disconnect with spirituality, and that's an avenue we've never really explored as a culture, as a country. And I think, I don't know who could do the research, whether it's a therapist or not, but we definitely need to look into how things like the colonization of our religions, how that also plays a part in terms of our state of mental health. Because right now, if you have a mental health issue, people will say, let me pray for you, or like, but it's good to see that we've changed from that to now having therapist sessions and everything. So my advice to fellow artists is you need to find your own spiritual calling that allows you to be balanced and to have like a peace of mind, because the world is not going to come and save you, and even some of the causes of why we have mental health issues, we can't always address them, but the best thing that you can do today is find a balance for yourself. Whenever you need to take time off, take time off. If you need to talk to somebody about something and you feel like they can help and guide you, have the bravery to go and talk to them. And I think I was watching a movie or listening to some podcast the other time, and they said, you don't have to cry alone. You can find somebody who you share your story with and you cry together. They might not give you a solution, but the fact that they're there for you, it helps you to know that you're not alone. So that comes back again to what community. So I feel like we can encourage more mental health issues by building communities that really care about each other and help each other along the journey of being an artist. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm glad you said solution, because I feel like you guys have offered solutions throughout this conversation, which I was really hoping for. I like ending things on positive notes. With that said, is there anything you guys would like to add? Like where you see Malawi going, what you hope for it over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years?
I'm always ready to go. In the next 2 to 3 years, I would love to see Malawi dominating the global charts. You know, we've seen that happening for a lot of South African and Nigerian artists, and we have the capacity to do it. We just need to coordinate ourselves. So I'm looking forward to more music communities in Malawi, because I feel like they would also add a momentum in terms of promoting and putting Malawian talent on the map. I'm also looking forward to seeing more Malawian music businesses, not just a record label, not just more publishing companies, more event companies, more what else? Makeup agencies, you know, to really represent and promote the talent that we have, because that's what we don't have. So for me, I'm excited about that, and I just want to encourage every artist in here to really take your art seriously and to be well versed in how the world is accepting our art and why it's important for us to own the means of making our art, or else external forces are going to own it, and then again we'll be in the losing end of things. Yeah.
The future, to start with, there have been huge companies that have been built on the back of Malawian music. OG Isa, now OG Construction, OG, all these things. Started a little shop in Blantyre, manufacturing tapes. Limby and then Blantyre. Yeah, manufacturing tapes. They were manufacturing and distributing all Malawi music, right? Now look at OG Isa now. Where did he start? So when people think that it might seem as if there isn't money, and that might be maybe to the musician, but if you think about it like in a manufacturing way, this is gonna sound so bad. The musician is like a tobacco farmer, you know? They farm tobacco and sell it to auction floors, right? The people who actually get rich off tobacco most of the times is not that farmer in Jinji, Doa, Nchisi, you know? Most of the times it's the middleman. So we have to move as well to ownership, you know, owning our intellectual property, because that's where the power is. So I think, as Kim says, the more people here who decide to get into the business of art, right, and realize the power of intellectual property, that in its I love how they say exploitation of intellectual property, because that's actually what they say, exploiting intellectual property. That's where the money is. There is a lot of money in this sector. At the moment, we collectively, all of us here, we're contributing about 4% to the country's GDP. You know, that's a lot of money. In 2009, that was more than mining, quarrying, transportation, what we know as established industries. This was how much money was flowing. But that money was not going into the pockets of the practitioners or the people creating the art, right? That was because we gave up a lot of ownership to those like middlemen, so to speak. So the more ownership we retain and the more we administer our own intellectual property, the more we'll be able to make. But that takes people recognizing the potential in this sector and deciding to get into it, not only to be artists, because everyone wants to go for the cameras, flash camera. We need more people to go into the business of art, right? To set up all these different institutions and companies to make sure that the Malawian artist is benefiting as well as they are in an ethical manner. Thank you.
I think for me, one thing I would just say is that to all the artists out there, keep creating, keep pushing your art. It starts with yourself. Believe in yourself, believe in your art. Because if you don't believe in it, who's going to believe in it? So it starts with you. Keep creating, keep pushing, and you know, one day you get there. There's always a market for everybody. There's always an audience for everybody. So if you have to start wherever you are, start with what you have, and you go from there. And also just learn to collaborate with other artists I think it's very important for you as a person to also grow outside of your comfort zone, to get to see how other people create, how best can you work with them, because there's power, there's greater power in numbers. So if you as an artist, you're working with other artists, you can easily push for more roles that help you. You can push for Kosoma to, do more. The conversation has always been about how do we get YouTube monetized in Malawi? A conversation that throughout the whole Music for Malawi program I've heard several times, and I've heard even before that. And the conversation is, okay, we were just talking with Kim earlier before to say, okay, maybe we need more artists to push together, push Kosoma, push the government to get this done. So to all the artists, work with each other. There's power in numbers, and I think we're on the right track. We're headed in a great direction. We're in the internet age, we're in the digital age. That, to me, let's look at it as a bonus. Let's look at it as that push that we need to get to the global stage and to help one another. Yeah.
Okay. Last but not least, I think I would really just say, it's in the same line, believe in yourself. You need to be able to hype yourself up. Malawian culture, African culture in general, it's all about humility. But sometimes you need to be able to stand on your name and say, you know what, I've got this, I can do this. We are all about, that was a good event. That podcast thing you hosted, that was great. But then you go, ish, zazingonos minizija. No, you need to be able to say, you're right, that was a big deal. And there's more big things to come. You need to be able to stand on your name, because if you don't stand on it, I don't know who will.
Perfect note to end on. I'm going to stand on that. That was a great conversation. But thank you, Akari. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Kim of Diamonds. And thank you, Q Malawesi. Oh, I wanted to end with a really corny thing. You can design your future. You can write your future. You can soundtrack your future. I couldn't think of anything. Oh yeah, speak your future into existence. That was good. Till next time. Thanks.